All right, we're live.
Okay. Now, I think I gave you guys fair warning about the live today. This one's going to be quite a bit different than the previous two that we've done for this tournament workshop. So, most of the time when you come to these lives, when we have classes, you're going to get a technique. You're going to get some kind of how-to, something to buy, something you should have if you don't have, something you should use if you already got. And this tends to be one of the most underutilized, underappreciated lessons that I talk about, but it's by far, I know from experience, the most important thing that you could ever learn about fishing. And we're going to talk about some of the realities of tournament fishing. If you're just getting into tournament fishing, you need to know what you're about to jump into. If you've been fishing tournaments for a long time, I guarantee you want to know how you can stand in the check line a little bit more. And I can guarantee you want to be more satisfied with your tournament results and who you are as a tournament angler. And I know this will help you because it's helped me. And I've had to set with a lot of the points I'm going to make. I've had to set with, and this is a continuous cycling through of information that I'm about to give you. So what I'm trying to tell you is the information that I'm about to give you. It's not going to be this one curve up to success because you listen to this live. This live is going to give you understanding of why your curve goes up and why your curve declines. It's not going to be an answer to your problems, but it's going to be an answer to why you have problems and how you address them. That's what I'm about to walk you through. So the tournament mentality, how you're going to become a better competitor. One thing I want to do, I want to identify successful tournaments. I want you to really have a good understanding of what a successful tournament is to you. It's not going to be what a successful tournament is to you. It's not the same one as it is for me, as it is for Michael, as it is for Brian Barty, as it is for any of you new members here in the app. Successful tournaments, you have the ability to frame that as whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be first place. Good tournaments don't have to be results at all. Good tournaments, you're allowed to frame what a good tournament is for you, and it doesn't have to match what you've seen, what you've heard. We're going to also identify what a bad tournament is. I don't even like saying that, but I figured saying bad tournament is what most people could relate to. So I like to call them unfavorable tournaments, and you're going to see that word pop up in this quite a bit. We're going to talk about how you need to practice, and then we're also going to talk about how you overcome unfavorable results. All right, Mike, we can jump into our slides here. So, as I mentioned, the first thing we want to do is we want to talk about what is success. What's a successful tournament for you? And I'd love for you, if you're listening right now, I don't know if we're streaming on YouTube and Facebook or whatever we're doing, but I would love for you to start to identify very specifically what is a successful tournament to you. Because if you don't know what that is, you really don't have anything to practice for. I can ask that question when I talk to people, and this is not just for kids, because a lot of times when we talk about learning stuff, we always talk about kids. Most people I talk to are 50 years and older, and they'll say about, man, I'm just not having good tournaments. And I'll ask the question, what is a good tournament? And they just sit there and look at me like the stutter. Well, I'm just, and they just start saying a bunch of things, just grabbing things out of the sky. And it tells me you really don't have an idea of what a good tournament is. So I want to tell you what a good tournament is to me. A good tournament to me can be a lot of different things. It can be 2 or 3 different things. Let me give you 2 examples of what a good tournament is for me. A good tournament for me, and I've mentioned this before quite a few times in the app. A good tournament for me looks like me going to practice, having an intentional process through practice. Meaning, when I get to a lake, I've put some research in before I get to the lake, and I go and discover those items that I decided I wanted to look for through my research, or I go look for these areas. I go search out a creek. I go look for spawners. I go look for grass. I go look for laydowns. I go look for a dock bite or whatever the case may be. I have this intentional practice. I find a bite through eliminating water. I find a way to catch fish. Then I go back in the tournament and catch those fish. I said a bunch of words, but a good tournament to me is finding fish in practice and going back in the tournament and catching them, whether I have to adjust or if I catch them in the same way that I found them in practice. Most of the time, it's a blend of the two. Sometimes I catch them exactly how I caught them in practice, but I almost always have to be a little bit flexible and do something else too, or go somewhere else too. I consider those tournaments a success. Other kind of tournament that I consider a success is I love nothing gets me, nothing makes me feel like I am the man. Like my beard is on fleek, like I got chest hair. Nothing just strokes my testosterone more than when I have a bad first day and then I'm standing in bag line on day 2 and somebody asks me what I got and I'm like 22. I got about 19. After I had a bad first day, because man, after you've had the gut punch of not having a good day and having to walk across stage and bear that embarrassment. Yeah, that guy didn't catch him. He was way off in left field. And then coming back the next day and kicking him in the nuts. That feels good, man. It ain't nothing better than that. Those are successful tournaments. I call those a successful tournament. It's got nothing to do with the result. I can finish 48th. I can finish 62nd. I can finish 9th. I can finish 2nd or 1st. Don't really matter. But it's, to me, my successful tournaments are a measure of how far I came or what I overcame or how well I executed on my plan. That's a successful tournament to me. Okay. I want to tell you a story about, I think this was 2021. 2021. I was fishing the Toyota Series. And that year, 21 and 22, I fished 2 leagues. I fished 2 different tournament series. I fished Major League Fishing Pro Circuit and I fished the Major League Fishing Toyota Series. Toyota Series, I always fished the northern tournaments because I just at the end of the year, I always found myself wanting a few extra tournaments or kind of wanting to keep fishing. So I would fish the northern tournaments. And the northern tournaments, they're usually Potomac, St. Lawrence River, and Champlain, or some blend of that. Well, we get to Champlain, one of my favorite places in the world to fish. You get up to Champlain, it's just the air is cool. It's in August, it's 70 degrees. It's beautiful. There's mountains, there's big smallmouth, there's clear water up there. Man, it's if you've never been to Champlain, you have to go up at least to that region of the country, even if you don't go to Champlain. Man, I get up there, practice is going pretty freaking good, to be honest with you. Like they ain't not biting. And I kind of got, I found some fish doing what I like to do, cranking, throwing a top water, and doing a little bit like drop shot and eco rig type thing too. Great tournament. We did have some wind in practice though that kind of made practice a little bit tough. And I think I only ended up practicing 2 days, and on the 3rd day I just didn't even go out. That's how good the bite was. I didn't even bother practicing. All right. Well, tournament comes around. I go out on day 1. I'm excited yet relaxed. I'm excited about the tournament because I know I'm going to catch them. And then I'm also relaxed about the tournament because I know that I'm going to catch them. It's just how big they're going to be. Sometimes you're nervous when you're going in these tournaments because you don't know what's about to happen. You had a good practice, but you just feel like all along they're going to screw you. It's like buying a used car. You like the car, but you just got this feeling that when you buy the car, the transmission is going to go out. It's just got this weird smell in it when you get in it and you drive it a long time. Like, man, this thing smells like it's overheating. Sometimes you got tournaments like that. You caught them okay in practice, but you just feel like it ain't going to go right. Well, this one, I felt just confident all the way across the board. I was like, I've been catching them in practice, and I'm excited to go back to my areas, and I'm also excited and relaxed because I know I'm going to catch them. I don't have that feeling very often, but I did for this tournament. I go out day 1, and and they ain't doing what I was doing in practice. I caught some fish, but it wasn't nearly as good as it was in practice. I ended up catching 15 pounds that day. 15 pounds on Champlain to have you so far down on the leaderboard that your mama will call you and say, "What's wrong, son?" Champlain is notorious for you having a blast catching fish and you being during their dead last. That's how good the lake is. That happened to me. I got to walk across stage, the walk of shame at 15 pounds. And then we always say this when we walk across stage, "Oh, better luck tomorrow. I had to really out." All the things, better luck tomorrow. I'll catch them tomorrow. Try to be positive when you know you're just feeling terrible inside. Sometimes I just want to go across stage and just start cussing like how I actually feel like it. I don't do it, but I think about it. Walk across stage, 15 pounds, pretty defeated. And really, I don't have anything else to go on the second day because I was so sold on what I found in practice that I wasn't looking for anything. I wasn't looking for nothing else. Well, go out day 2. The weather is much different on day 2. It's cloudy, windy, and it's like raining intermittently. On Champlain, you don't want any of those conditions typically. You don't want it raining. You definitely don't want it windy. And it's cloudy. It's not ideal. It's catching smallmouth. So that's not ideal. Clouds are not really good for northern smallmouth. I get started that day kind of ho-hum, not really expecting much. And I get in, fish are actually kind of biting a little bit better on day 2. I caught some smallmouth. I got to about that 13-pound mark fairly quick on day 2, which if I was in the Carolinas or down south, when you get to 13, you're really close to 20 because you can catch a 6 or 7 pounder and fill out your limit and swap out a couple 2-pounders very easily. You can't do that up north. When you got 13 pounds, you're just getting to 15 is hard because your chances of catching anything over 4 pounds is pretty slim. So I catch my 13 pounds. I'm still pretty relaxed. But then I catch like a big largemouth, like a 4 1/4 largemouth. And I got like 15 on 4. I was like, this is pretty good. Well, I keep largemouth fishing, and I catch another fish about 4 3/4, almost a 5-pounder. So now I got like 16 pounds. I was like, okay, now we're working with something. I keep fishing. I remember in practice, one thing I love to do at Champlain is fish sailboats, the moored sailboats. I know we don't moor boats here in the South. If you live up north, you already know what I'm talking about. They anchor the boats in the middle of a bay. They don't have a dock and they pull the sailboats in them. They basically anchor the boat in the middle of a bay. And the boat may be over 60, 80, 30 foot of water. They'll anchor it to the bottom. They'll take their little dinghy, which is a dinghy, is a little John boat basically, and they ride it back to shore. And then they go to land. And when they want to get back in the boat, they take the little dinghy and ride it back out here to the middle of the bay where they anchored their sailboat at. Well, smallmouth love to get on these boats that are in the middle of the bays moored down to the bottom. And they just get under the shade of these sailboats in the middle of nowhere. So about midday, and it's typically a best pattern when it's sunny. Keep in mind, I mentioned it's really cloudy that day. I decided to start running that pattern later in the day, catch another 4-pound smallmouth. Long story short, I weighed in 18-something pounds on that second day, and I went from darn near last all the way into the check range. Buddy, that was a successful tournament. I left there feeling like I am the freaking man. I left there with a New York accent, okay? I became a New York Mets and New York Jets fan after that tournament. How good I felt about that tournament because I knew I had a bad day 1, went into day 2 and really not knowing what I was going to do, adjusted, kind of saw some moments that happened on day 2 and capitalized on those moments that presented themselves that I wasn't even planning on fishing in the tournament anyway. That's a successful tournament to me. I love those kind of tournaments. All right, Mike, let's jump to the second slide where we talk about bad tournaments. We should talk about like what is a bad tournament too. And I do have a definition. I do have an idea of what bad tournaments, what that is for me. And you should figure out what it is for you because it doesn't have to match what I'm about to tell you was a bad tournament for me. So a bad tournament for me, I hate this. Like, there is nothing that makes my skin crawl. There's nothing that makes me cry or want to go up in a corner and just ball up and not talk to anybody for about 3 days more than a tournament where I left easy catchable fish in the lake. Let me tell you what I mean. There's been several times where my strengths, the things that I love to do, which is pitching and flipping grass, pitching and flipping docks, throwing a spinnerbait on laydowns, just cranking riprap, things that I literally lose sleep over. There's been several times where I kind of half practiced that during my practice period, kind of half looked for it, didn't really find it, watched the live broadcast on the way home, and dang on if I see somebody in 10th place, 8th place, 2nd place, leading the tournament, cranking a riprap corner. Oh, man. Most of the gray hair you see in my beard and my hair came from that very thing. I cannot stand that. That is a bad tournament for me. That is a very bad tournament for me. I can't do anything about fish that I lost. If I lost the fish, it's not like I did that intentionally. I can't do that. I can't do anything about fish that I didn't find or areas that I didn't find. I can't do anything about somebody finding fish that on a technique that I'm not good at. But when I find out that somebody caught them really well doing something that I like doing, I don't like that. And it takes me a long time to get over that. Those are bad tournaments for me. Those are really bad ones. Okay. I can give you an example of bad tournaments. I don't want to spend a bunch of time on that. I want to get into some of the meat of this subject so I can get you guys thinking and processing the right way. Maya, let's jump to the next slide. So let's start talking about how to practice. And I need to go pretty deep into this one. We're going to spend a little bit of time on this. I want to talk about how to practice. And this step right here, if you can get this right, you actually start to enjoy practice more. And I promise you, tournament results will start to increase. You learn how to practice. And some of the stuff that I'm about to say, you already heard me say it before. You heard me say it, but this time I really want you to hear it and like take this in. I really want you to really grab this concept. When you practice, you can see that under how to practice, you see how I have the words, the magic of discovery. I talked about this. I think every live I've talked about this very concept, the magic of discovery. What am I talking about? Discovery. I really, and I'm so adamant about this. I'm gonna say it in every live. We're gonna have a live again at 6:00 tonight. Bobby's gonna talk about fishing glide baits, and I guarantee you I'm gonna mention this again. I'm gonna do 2 classes tomorrow. I guarantee you I'm gonna mention this again. I want you to release the idea that you're gonna show up at the ramp, that you're gonna fish your Tuesday nighter, that you're gonna fish your club tournaments, and you're gonna go into it knowing what to do, knowing what to throw, knowing where to go. Forget that. That's a lie. The reason you feel like that is because you feel like the fishermen that you respect, because you watch their YouTube channel, because you watch them on Bassmasters, you watch them on Major League Fishing, you only get to see the end result of how they finish, of how they fish. And so you think that they showed up to the lake already knowing what to do. And that's not true. And so when you feel puzzled, when you can't get a bite, when you're going out and you're snagged up, when you're going out and you're backlashing, when you're going out and your favorite area of the lake is windy and you don't know what to do next, you feel like everyone else in that situation would know what to do and where to go. And the fact is, they don't. I don't. Mark doesn't. Even Jacob Wheeler's a bad. I think he does know. He's one of the only people that does know from personal experience. Scott Martin doesn't know. None of your favorite people that you watch, they don't know. Being obsessed over uncovering what they should be doing. Your entire practice should all be about discovering. Your practice is not about knowing. You don't show up to practice to find out what you already know. The practice is for you to show up and discover what you should be doing in the tournament. And so I wrote on here some things, just examples of what I mean of discovering. When I say that, you're going to look for rock. You're going to show up for your practice, and you're going to say, today I'm going to spend 4 hours looking for the right rock for smallmouth to be on. I'm going to show up to the lake going in the back of Waxahachie Creek, and I'm going to see if fish are on laydowns. I do that for 2 hours. I get 0 bites. Then I move on to point 3. I'm going to go in the back of Cane Creek, and I'm going to start fishing points. I fish points for 2 hours, 3 hours, 1 hour, 30 minutes, and I catch 2 bass. Maybe I can catch more fish on points. And so I spend the next hour and a half or 2 fishing more points. You see how that's intentional? You see how I'm looking for discovering. I'm looking for what it is. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but I am looking to discover what it is. That's what practice is. And that seems like I'm almost insulting your intelligence by telling you this. But when I talk to people, they'll tell me about a tournament that they're going to have a month from now. And they're like, I just don't know what to do. Of course you don't know what to do. It's a month from now. You're not going to know what to do a month from now. You could guess. The best fisherman in the world does not know what he's going to do in his tournament a month from now. Release the idea that you're going to already know what to do when you get to the water. So look at those ideas that I got there. Find the best grass. Spend your practice day, instead of thinking about catching fish, think about finding the best grass on that lake. What is the best grass, Brian? We talk about it all the time. There may be grass where it's a little bit thin. That means if it's thin, that means there's rocks. That means there's a hard bottom in between. I might be looking for the grass that is the thickest. I might be just looking for grass at all on some lakes. Find birds. What do birds mean? Why would I be looking for birds, Brian? I thought we were in a bass tournament. If I find birds, that means I'm going to find bait. If I find bait, that means I'm going to find fish. Sometimes we have to zoom out from just trying to get bites and start to look for the things that hold bass, but so we can get bit. We have to zoom out. Zooming in on just getting bites is too narrow. Zooming in on just getting bites is too narrow. Zooming in on just getting bites is too narrow. Zooming in on just getting bites is too narrow. I said it 4 times intentionally. Zoom out. Zoom out on thinking about where do bass live, what do they do, what would they be on, and look for those things. Push to the side, getting bites, focus on where do bass live. Intentionally search those things out. Look for spawners. Look for boats. That sounds very messy for me to put that on there, and I thought twice about it and I put it back. On certain bodies of water, it's very important for you to look for boats. Okeechobee, Great Lakes. When you look for boats in certain places, that doesn't work that well on reservoirs. Lake Hartwell's, even like a Champlain, anywhere in the South. Most nowhere in the South except for Florida and the Northeast. Looking for boats is a witch hunt. But looking for boats on some of these really big natural lakes is how you understand where just life is. Because on the Great Lakes, there's a lot of dead water. On Lake Okeechobee, there is a ton of dead water. And when you just ride around and start to look for boats, you'll notice the shiner fishermen are fishing where the best grass is. The shiner fishermen are always where fish are spawning or where the bass are. And you can that'll give you a bird dog of where to look. You can literally go out to look for where the most boats are, and it'll give you an indication of where bass are. That sounds really messy, but I promise you, it's something you need to implement on certain bodies of water. I'm not going to go over there and fish right on top of somebody else, but sometimes, for instance, Lake Okeechobee, the south end of the lake is dead. It has so much north wind that it's muddied up the entire south end, and the south end is just dead. Do those fish leave? I don't think so. But all I can tell you is you can fish down there for 3 days and you won't get a bite. And so if you put your boat in gear and you start to see it, well, the boats are on the north end. Most of them are up here in the monkey box or around Fish Eating Bay. You at least know, okay, I need to focus my efforts on the northwest side of the lake. I'm not telling you to go fish on top of a boat. I'm not telling you to go fish in the same creek as somebody. What I'm trying to tell you is that sometimes when you see boat traffic, it's an indicator that this area of the lake is where the most life is. Look for stained water, look for clear water, find brush. All of these things give intentionality to our practice day. When we're out there practicing, we really, really have to be intentional about as many moments as we can. Don't be out there just floating around to be floating around to pass time. If you ever catch yourself doing that, stop immediately and say, what am I doing and why am I doing it? You have to catch yourself when you're just in the motions of just going through something, just doing it. Hey, wait a minute. I fished in this creek for 2 hours and I hadn't got a bite. What the heck am I doing? What is my purpose here? What am I fishing? Why am I fishing? What am I being intentional about? It's really easy to get in the motions and just fishing. What the heck are you doing? Fish with intention. This is the difference between tournament fishermen and just being a weekend fisherman. All right. So everything that I just answered there, the most important question, I'm not looking at the chat right now. Guarantee you somebody's already posted something in the chat about how long do you fish an area? Came up yesterday. Not a dumb question, but this is how you answer that question. When you're fishing with intentionality, I think that's a word, right? Intentionality. When you're being intentional about your fishing, about your practice, about your day, you don't have to worry about how long you should be fishing it. If you're intentional and I'm trying to find boats, you answer this question: have I found boats? Have I found stained water? Is the answer no? Then I keep looking for stained water. Pick up your boat and move. Am I in stained water? If the answer is no, that means pick up your boat and move. I'm looking for stained water. Is the answer that to finding stained water? Yes. Yes, I found stained water. Okay, you're fishing in this area. You fish how long and have you had a bite? If the answer is yes, you keep fishing. If the answer is no, get up, look for clear water. Go look for something else. You can answer your own question that there's not 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, 2 days. That's not how you answer how long you stay in there. You stay in there till you find what you're looking for. Not getting bites. We're ultimately looking for bites. That's the ultimate goal. If the answer is no, I haven't got bites, you should at least, for a minimum, keep moving. Keep moving can look like two different things. That could be cranking up your big motor and moving another mile, 2 miles, 10 miles down the lake. It could mean pulling out and going to a different ramp, totally different section of the lake. Or it could mean keep that trolling motor on 50% and keep it moving. You got to figure that out for the day. Discover where you should be. Okay. Last year we fished the St. Lawrence River on the pro circuit, Major League Fishing Pro Circuit. We fished the St. Lawrence River. It's like our last term of the year. And traditionally, St. Lawrence River has been, you hear a lot of good about it. People will say it's the best fishery in the country. And to a certain degree, they're right. The weights are probably the highest on the St. Lawrence River of any fishery that you'll probably fish. And a lot of times, it's not that easy there. It looked really easy on paper, but the St. Lawrence River is probably, in times past, probably maybe been my least favorite northern fishery. I don't think it's that easy. It's kind of one dimensional. Everybody catches them shining their light. They're forward facing for in the middle of the abyss, and they do this weird thing where you drift around on these reefs and bars for smallmouth, and I just don't enjoy that. Sure, you can catch 20, 25 pounds doing that. I'm just saying I don't get aroused by it. I really don't. And apparently you don't either, because when the tournaments switched up north, the ratings for TV drops really bad. Maybe one or two things. Most people aren't interested in watching people catch smallmouth on spinning rods, or two, y'all are out fishing and you don't want to watch TV in the summer. But I can tell you the tournament ratings typically drop. I don't like the St. Lawrence River really, because it's one dimensional. However, I do have one way of catching them at the St. Lawrence River that has proved to be pretty doggone good, but I've only been able to catch them one day for several years in a row. I've been fishing the St. Lawrence River. The first time was 2021, I want to say. And I've had good days there, but haven't been able to piece together an entire tournament. I've had some really good days. Matter of fact, my biggest bag of fish weighed, I want to say, ever in the pro tournaments come from the St. Lawrence River. But yet and still, I've cashed some checks there, but I haven't been able to put it together, the full piece of the puzzle together. So I see that on the schedule, and it immediately scares me last year. And I just decided that I was going to stick to my guns and do what I do all the time. I've always caught my fish throwing a crankbait on the St. Lawrence River, but I could just never make it last more than a day. I can catch 20 to 23 pounds, 20 to 24 pounds on day one. Day two, 12 to 15. I don't know why they do that. All I can tell you is that's all I've been able to catch. I didn't give a gosh dang. I was like, I'm going to do it again. Keep in mind the championships on the line last year when I go in that tournament. I was like, I don't care, man. That's what I'm going up there to do, because that's what I like doing and I have fun. But I got a little bit more intentional about it. Really and truly, when I catch them on the St. Lawrence River, I only have about 6 or 7 stretches of river that sets up how I catch them on a crankbait. I've talked about this in the app, where it's really steep and it drops off to deep water fairly fast. So you can be right by the bank and it drops off to, say, like 20 foot, which is not that many places on the St. Lawrence. If I can be like within a cast distance of the bank and be in 20 foot of water, current's super heavy, I catch them on a crankbait on that kind of stuff. So I intentionally go into practice looking for that. That was my intentionality for this practice. I go looking for steep banks with heavy current. And I didn't even fish much. I just spent most of my time on the wheel just looking. Well, I got onto something a little extra. And come to find out, when I fished the St. Lawrence River, most of you, when you think of smallmouth, I bet you think of deep water, 20 to 40 foot deep water, dragging a drop shot. Wow. This time, I figured out how to catch smallmouth in knee-deep water. It was a certain type of rock that I found, and if it was really shallow, then smallmouth was on it. And so for this tournament, the results are a little different, because I just kept looking. I spent more time behind the wheel than I did actually fishing. And I accidentally come across this deal where I was catching smallmouth knee deep to waist deep water, throwing a crankbait. And so I still haven't posted this video yet, because I'm actually scared. It's so easy that I'm scared that people are going to watch this and they're going to start whooping my butt with it. So day one of the tournament, I catch 22.15. Day two, we didn't get to use forward facing sonar, which I didn't need it anyway. I still weighed 20, skyrocketed up to 14th in the tournament. Day three, which is championship day, I catch another 22 pounds. And I caught all these fish throwing a crankbait in waist deep water and on clean rock. A lot of the rock on the St. Lawrence River has like this slimy grass around it. Anywhere I found the clean rock. It was smallmouth on it, and they was biggins. But they were so the mistake that I've been making in times prior was not fishing shallow enough, which is unusual. Most time in the St. Lawrence River, you're gonna be fishing 20 to 40 foot deep. I was fishing waist deep, very shallow. And so just having a little bit of intentionality with my practice gave me, I should have finished top 10. I think on day 2, I was in the top 10 and I dropped back. I caught more weight on day 3 than I did on day 2, and I still went back. With forward facing sonar had a lot to do with it. You catch, when it opens up, when they would take forward facing sonar away, it drops 5 pounds, 4 to 5 pounds. And when we add it, it goes up 4 to 5 pounds. Do what you want to with that fact. What I just described to you was a fact. Okay. Not any feelings. What's our next slide, Michael?
There's a question. Davis D said, with the goals listed, would they change with the weather, hot, cold, wind, rain? I don't know if you want to address that before.
No. So he's asking it, do I change my goals depending on the weather? No, because we're going to discover. Our goal is just to find these objects. Our goal is to discover what is the lake going to give me today with the weather. So I know what you're asking. You're almost showing up with the idea, okay, it's sunny today. I should know what to do next. That's exactly what I want you to release. I want you to show up. It's cloudy today. Now I'm going out to discover how that's going to affect the fish. Because the way that we have advertised fishing, when it's cloudy, fish roam. That ain't always true. When it's sunny, the fish hug to the bottom. That's not always true. If you don't believe me, look at my live from yesterday when I was throwing a crankbait in slick, sunny water. Slick, I mean, it was dead slick, hot, 90-degree water. I'm catching them on a crankbait, sunny. Now, magazine wisdom, YouTube wisdom, fishing wisdom, Bassmaster wisdom tells you don't throw a crankbait when it's slick and sunny. That's what you always heard. That's exactly what I'm telling you. Show up with discovery in mind. You don't know what is going to change. The weather, you don't know. That's what you're going to find out. You're going to go figure out what's going to change because it is cloudy. You're going to go figure out what's going to change because there's a lot of boat traffic. You're going to go figure out what's going to change because the water's clear now. Because I'm going to tell you, if you fish long enough, the answer, what you're going to find out, nobody will tell you this, what you're going to find out is the answer to that is always fluid. You're going to, for a year or two, you're going to find out, oh man, hey, when it gets muddy in the river, throw a chatterbait. And then all of a sudden one day, you're going to figure out, oh man, when it gets muddy in the river, they don't get on the chatterbait no more. I call every last one of them flipping a tube on laydowns. The answer is always going to be fluid. It keeps changing. I love in the app when I talk about smallmouth fishing, so many times people say, oh man, I bet the smallmouth act crazy when it's cloudy. They really don't. When it gets cloudy and nasty, them smallmouth, and I put a lot of thought into this. Why do the weights go down up north, and why is the smallmouth so hard to catch, in particular up north, when it's cloudy? And this all experiences all coming from St. Lawrence River, Champlain, and even St. Clair. Why would the fishing be worse? Oneida. Why is it tougher when it's cloudy and nasty? I thought about this. I think it has a lot to do with the smallmouth bass is not at the top of the food chain up north. Now down south, the bass is at the top of the food chain. He's king over the lake. He doesn't have any predators. Nobody's going to eat him. Okay, we know that smallmouth are sight feeders, and everything up north, for the most part, is a sight feeder. All of a sudden, it's dark under there. And the old 3-pound, 4-pound smallmouth's out swimming around in the grass, and Muskie comes and just whop, got him. He got to set his butt down when it's cloudy because he can't defend himself as good. Now, when it's sunny, it's visual, he can see, he knows where to dodge old Muskie or whatever, a sturgeon, whoever else eats a smallmouth up north. He can probably see them coming and knows where to hide and where to go. It's cloudy, he probably can't. I think that makes smallmouth set down. Now, and 2 years from now, I might discover a way to catch smallmouth the best in cloudy conditions. So you always got to show up with the mentality that I'm going to figure out things today. You always got to show up with that, because there are no absolutes in bass fishing. There are no absolutes. You don't believe me? Look at top 10 results in any tournament. You'll find one guy in the river, one down at the bottom end of the lake, one guy fishing finesse, one guy fishing power fishing, one guy throwing a tube, one guy flipping a drop shot, one guy's throwing an urchin bait, and one guy's using forward-facing sonar. It's never an absolute for success. It's always a fluid answer. So you want to show up with the idea that I am going to discover today. What's our next slide? And then I'm going to do all our questions if we got more at the end. I think I only got one more slide here. Really, I really kind of already dove into that because I forgot I did that slide. So everything that I just broke down to y'all is really just a lake breakdown process. If you're new to the app, we have a lake breakdown process. When we're breaking down any lake, any body of water, if we fish for brim, crappie, largemouth, smallmouth, spotted bass, it don't matter. We use the same process to find fish. What do the fish eat? What's available in that body of water that I'm fishing? And what are my angler strengths? When I answer those questions, we want to do that, but now we want to do that repeatedly through the day. You want to do that before you get to the lake to give you an idea of where to start. Still showing up when the idea of discovery. We want to give with the idea that I need to know what the fish are eating in that lake. I want to know what's available. When I say what's available, is there docks? Is there grass? Is there laydowns? Is there wood? Or is there current? Is there tide? Is there clear water? Is there dirty water? What's available? What can I fish when I get to the lake today? We want to know that. And then we want to know out of those things, like, what am I best at? What is my most confidence in? And that's going to help us point the boat in the right direction. How long to stay in the area? I really kind of already covered that, but it's going to come with your confidence, and it's going to come along with your breakdown that you're doing over and over throughout the day. If I went 2 hours in the back of a creek fishing stained water, 3 hours, and I hadn't got a bite, let's go. Whoop, whoop, pick it up and let's go somewhere else, buddy. Go fish some clear water. Go do something else. Be flexible. In our practice, how are we going to analyze that information we're getting? We're always going to forecast for the future. Most of us, a lot of you guys are going to have to practice the weekend before a tournament. So you got to start thinking about, okay, what's going to happen in between Saturday and Saturday? Is there a warming trend? Is there a cooling trend? Is there rain? How will that affect the lake? Will it make the water rise? Will it make the water muddy? Will it be another tournament on top of mine? I got to start thinking about boat pressure. How do I mitigate that? Don't look for the answer before you get to the lake, but think of the possibilities of when the water rises. In other words, what I'm trying to tell you is you're going to have to stay flexible. I caught them Saturday flipping bushes. I look at the hydraulic data for Wednesday and Thursday. They're pulling water. We haven't had any more rain, and it's 90 degrees. Everybody's running the air conditioning. There's a possibility that the water could drop 8 inches. What are some possible things that I could do if I went back to the bushes and the flipping bite isn't there? What are some things I could do? Okay, I do remember it was a stretch of docks in that creek. If I fish the bushes for 2 hours and I don't get a bite, I'm going out to the mouth and I'm going to fish that row of docks on that creek channel turn. If that doesn't work, I remember I went under the bridge and there was a good riprap right there. I should probably think about cranking that riprap too if the bushes doesn't work. Staying flexible and opening, zooming out to our possibilities. The riprap may not be the answer. The docks may not be the answer, but we're open to the possibility of that stuff working. Let's talk about unfavorable results. Michael? I feel like it is. So if you're jumping into tournament fishing, let me tell you one thing that you're going to get. At some point, if you hadn't already, at some point, you're going to have some results that's going to make you mad. At some point, you're going to get something you're like, I don't want this. I don't want the 107. I don't want the deadlift. I don't want the 3 fish for 5 pounds. You're going to get it. It's coming for you. Hot and heavy. You're going to get it. It's like COVID. I don't know many people that ain't got COVID. Everybody done had it. You're going to get it. Okay, at some point. So what do we do when that happens? Because it's going to happen, and for some of us, it's going to happen more than others. What I like about talking about this stuff, if you were talking to, let's say if you were, Kevin Van Dam couldn't teach y'all on this. You know why? He done had too much success. He probably kind of forgot what it's like to have unfavorable results. Probably should identify what an unfavorable result is. But a lot of the guys, I can teach you about this. I've had both. I've had success and I've had unfavorable results. And it's funny because most tournament anglers run from this, and I tend to embrace it a little more than most people. That seems crazy. Why would you embrace unfavorable results? Because I feel like it gives me the opportunity to feel and know exactly what my people were feeling and experiencing. And I've also worked through unfavorable results over and over and over and over in my career's time. I've went through the stretches of bad tournaments, and it always clears up. It always clears up. I've had stretches of good tournaments, and it always ends. So I know what I'm talking about on this stuff. Some of the other stuff that I talk about in the app, you could like, I know this subject from life experience. I mean, a lot of the other stuff, almost everything I tell you is from life experience. But this one thing, like I can preach on this one, and I will preach on this one. I can tell you about this. You should never identify with your results. Notice I said that if you read my bullet point up there, the very first bullet point, I just said with your results. I didn't say with your bad results. I didn't say with your good results. With your results, period. You don't want to identify with your good or bad results. That doesn't mean that you don't celebrate when you have a good tournament. But what I'm telling you is don't start thinking that you're infallible when you have good tournaments. It's coming. And when you have bad tournaments, I don't want you to think that because you have bad tournaments or unfavorable results, that that's who you are. You have bad tournaments or you had unfavorable results. So now I am a bad fisherman. Now I am not good. Now I don't identify with the results, good or bad. There's a mistake I made. I'm telling from experience on this. You're not your results. The results aren't who you are. You're actually going to start finding as you fish more and more and you start to get in turn, you can figure out that like the results don't matter that much. They really don't matter that much. I want you to release the idea of being right or perfect. Like you're good enough, man. Just get rid of that idea that you have to have a good tournament in order to feel good about fishing. You know how many people sell their equipment, sell their boat, sell their kayak because they had like 2 bad tournaments or had a season of bad tournaments, 2 years of bad tournaments? Get rid of this stuff. Like release the idea, release the pressure from yourself that you got to have any kind of result, a 20th, a 10. Let yourself go of that. You're good enough as it is. You don't need another YouTube video. You don't need another live class in the SUF app. You don't need another boat. Just like let go of that. Like you're good enough, man. You're good enough. You're good enough just as you are today. You're good enough. Like today, you're good enough for the work and the life that you've experienced till today. as life continues on and you get more information and you fish more tournaments, you'll be good enough for that. But for this moment in time where you are right now, for what you know, you're good enough. I want to say again, this moment in time, I'm talking about like today, for what you know, what you've learned, and what you experienced is good enough. That's it. It's good enough. So let that be. Release the idea that you should be better. Let yourself go of the idea that you should know more. You've experienced and you've learned enough for today. You're good enough. When you get unfavorable results, that bullet point number 3, it's just information. When you get results and it's not what you want, it's just information. It's not about you. It's not about how good you are. It's not about how much you work. It's just information. They weren't on that bait that day. That creek that you chose wasn't the best creek. It's just information. It doesn't have to have any more meaning than just that area of the lake wasn't good. I was retrieving my bait too fast. It's just information. It doesn't have anything to do with who you are as an angler or as a person. It's just information. Just let it be that. Doesn't mean discard it, but just know that its value in and of itself is just information about what you did that day. It's not about who you are. 4th bullet point, learn to study success. Ask questions to people that did good, especially in most club tournaments, which I think is what most of us are going to be fishing. You had a couple bad tournaments and you got somebody in your tournament, your club that's been doing pretty good. Just ask them questions. Man, how have you been catching your fish? Did you get to practice? Like, just ask. You'd be surprised what people will tell you. Just ask them in the most humble way that you know how. Man, can you tell me what did I miss today? And most of the time, they might tell you something that you were either tried. And sometimes you might learn something you didn't know. You might be like, man, I never thought to try that. Just study success. Study some of the people that did well. Ask them questions. Now, don't feel entitled for them to tell you what they did, because more than likely they're going to tell you some bits and pieces. They probably won't tell you, unless it's a good buddy, they might tell you a little bit of everything. But just study success. All right. That last bullet point, I know that I might get some arousals on this one. You have to learn to keep fishing. I call this the diarrhea theory. I named that diarrhea theory. The diarrhea theory, if you ever had a stomach bug, you know how you want to get that out of you. You gotta get, as soon as you get it out of you, you feel good. No matter which end it comes out of, when you have a stomach bug, once it gets out of you, it feels so much better. When you're having bad tournaments, just keep fishing more tournaments. I know that's easy to say because tournament entry fees are expensive, and then you gotta, it's just fishing in general is expensive. You burn your resources by fishing tournaments, but just keep going. Nobody keeps having bad tournaments. It eventually ends. I am living proof of that. I'm living proof of that. In 2019 was probably my breakout season for as my pro career. My rookie season was actually really good. I had one bad tournament at Lake Okeechobee. My rookie season was actually pretty good. 17 and 18, I struggled. And then 19, I started putting the pieces of the puzzle together. 2019, I started putting the pieces of the puzzle together and started having some good tournaments. I won a tournament. Okay. And 2020 was a tough year. There's a lot going on. 2020, I had this deal. If y'all don't remember, 2020 is when when Major League Fishing bought FLW, and they started restructuring the tournaments. Long story short, I was supposed to go fish the Elite Series. I got invited to fish the Elite Series, and then I got uninvited to fish the Elite Series. That ended up being a big debacle. It's a lot of legal stuff. It was really tough time in life for me. I really couldn't focus on fishing that much in 2020 because of all I was dealing with that. So if my results go way up, and then 2020 they kind of it was just hard to focus on fishing, so results suffered a little bit. Nonetheless, I still had a pretty good season. I fished the Opens in 2020, finished 17th in one division and the 20s in another. In 2021, I had some good tournaments. I had some really bad tournaments. So it was like it was just building on the bad stuff that I had in 2020 and 2020. And then 2022 is kind of starting to get over everything that happened. And I had a really good season. To this day, I consider 2022 the best season of fishing I've ever had. The results aren't as good as 2019, but what I overcame and the significance of having those good tournaments in 2022 by far was my funnest season that I'm most proud of is 2022 because of what I was dealing with in my personal life, plus overcoming the thing that I had going on in 2020. By far, I feel like I felt like that was what I did with that and how I worked that out. I'm super proud of 2022 season. 2022 is good. 2023 is kind of like, meh. Had some mechanical issues in 2023. It caused some bad tournaments, and then there's one or two tournaments where I just flat out didn't catch them. 23, I did have a good tournament at Okeechobee, and then I've had maybe one or two other ones, but the tournament results was just not really that good in 23. Bad season. 24, worst ever. Didn't even get to finish the season. I had mechanical failure, had some bad tournaments. My granddad died while I was at a tournament, so I didn't get to finish the season. I had to go to the funeral. Results. And then last year, I would argue last year is right there with 2025 season was either, I would say, during there at the top or first or second best seasons I ever had in my life. And notice I say the season where I actually won and my best result ever, 8th in points. I didn't call it my best season. It was actually either 22 or 25 for my best season. And I always look at my results. I call good tournaments by how far I traveled, not distance, but how like what am I overcoming to have those good tournaments? But I could have easily, and my point that I'm getting to, when I had those not favorable results in terms in 2020 or 2024, it'd be easy to just give up and say, man, I'm just going to do like YouTube and do my app. But you just keep fishing, and then you have a 2022 season. 23 is not that good. 24 is really bad. And then 25 is really good. Why did I have the good 25 season? I didn't change anything. I didn't get a new outlook. I didn't do anything different. Use the same bait, same rod, same everything. Why was it good? Because you just keep fishing. 2016, I had a good season. 2017, 2018, it was bad. 2019 is the best. I just kept fishing. You just gotta fish the crap out of you. When you're having bad terms, you just keep going. Just keep going. You get rid of the diarrhea and you feel better. You start having better results. That's pretty much all I got for y'all. I think there's not another slide, right, Mike?
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. All right, I'm gonna go check out questions, see if we got anything. Did you see anything, Mike?
There were a couple.
Let's see. I'm gonna see what I see too. I do questions. If y'all got any, if you asked any questions at all early on, just bump them up again, and I'll get to them. So we got the Davis Dodson one. Is the search for life real? Often I find creeks with tons of some kind of fish on the graph. I feel better about fishing where I see life. He says, crazy, question mark. So I think what he's asking is, let me see. I see a couple questions in there. Is the search for life real? So I'm calling life. Let me just tell you what I'm meaning when I say search for life. most of the time when I find an area that's productive, it has what I'm referring to as life. I can see blue herons diving for shad. I might see seagulls diving on bait. I may see brim beds. I may go to unsnag a lure from a laydown and I see little brim and stuff moving around and minnows moving around. I may see schooling activity in the middle of the creek. When I idle in the middle of the creek, I may see shad in the river channel. There's some form of life that lets me know, hey, there's potential for bass to live here. That's what I'm talking about, and that's what I'm searching for. And yes, that is very real, to answer your question on that. Now, you said often I find creeks with tons of some kind of fish. Well, if you're finding some type of fish, what you need to do is discover what type it is by getting them to bite. Oftentimes when people say something about they're finding fish on their grass, what I found out what they really mean is I'm idling out in the middle of nowhere in the abyss and I'm marking fish. Fish that aren't on anything are pretty hard to catch unless you're really good with your forward-facing sonar. And so if you're good with your forward-facing sonar, go out there and catch them. They'll bite. But if you aren't and you're marking fish in the middle of the creek channel over nothing, it's a waste of your time. We always want to look for fish. I say always. Most of the time we want to look for fish on those objects that I mentioned on that slide. Points, grass, docks, humps, ledges, any of that. When we find fish in close proximity to those items, they allow us access to them. We can target that. If you practice and you're marking fish in the middle of a creek, how you go back to that in the tournament, I guarantee you they're not going to be on that. Now, in recent times, everything that I said is somewhat bullcrap because we got forward-facing sonar, and people very much so are finding and catching fish in the middle of the creek on absolutely nothing. And so how do you teach that? Because you're not fishing anything. How do you find that? Because they're not fishing anything. You just get out there and go for it. And that is very much so a thing. So you asked, is that crazy? No, it's not crazy. But that's what you're up against. If I answer that in any kind of way. All right, so Barty says, can we talk a little bit more about the next SUF online tournament? So we're going to start Saturday, this coming Saturday. We're going to do exactly like what we did in this previous tournament. We're going to have another SUF Big Bass tournament this coming Saturday, running to the following Sunday. We'll start this Saturday, run to the following Sunday. Do exactly like what we did in past tournaments. So each of you guys, Michael will have a tab up on the app, and you'll log your fish catches all under one thread. You'll make a post once you catch your big fish, and then under your post, you'll log each catch and its length with the picture and the identifier code in that picture. All the rules will be on the landing page when we post that later on this week. And we'll give you a code the morning of the tournament. Because a lot of times people ask, well, what's the code? Well, you don't have a code because the tournament's not live yet. Because then you could just go catch fish now and put the code in the tournament picture and then post it later on. We'll give you a code when the tournament's open. So exactly like how we did last time, all the instructions, all the information to be on the landing page when we get that up live later this week. Okay, let's see. Cal, he says, all right, so what happens when the lake you're fishing isn't favorable for your confidence? Do you attempt to discover with the strength or chance it with a technique you aren't familiar with? So, Cal, I'm going to say something right here. His question is, what do you do when a lake doesn't favor your confidence? Two things. So far, I have not found a lake where I don't have an opportunity to fish my strengths. Now, this is where it sounds like you haven't quite developed your angler identity yet. And what I mean by that is you should have a couple techniques, and you only need like 3 or 4. If you got more than 3 or 4 techniques you're really good at, I think most time we're probably lying, unless you're a prodigy. You probably should just continue to build your skills, because you don't need a lot. Almost every lake that you go to, there's going to be something that applies to one of four techniques, one or three or four techniques. Something to fish shallow, something to fish mid-range, and something to fish a little deeper. And figure out what that is for you. And every lake that you ever go to will always have a group of fish that lives shallow. And I mean every lake that you ever go to will always have a group of fish that lives really, really shallow. I always have a group of fish that's mid-range, 6 to 15 foot, 10 to 15 foot. And there's always a group of fish that are like deeper. And that deeper is going to look different depending on where you are, 15 plus. And so if you've got a tool to use in each one of those profiles in the water, you're going to find something everywhere you go. I think a better question, Kel, would be like, what are your strengths? Because there ain't many, you should be able to find something everywhere you go. Keep looking, zoom out a little bit. Maybe thinking, maybe zooming in too close. Okay, Eric Zanke, this is a good question. He says you discover 2 to 3 good patterns and or areas. What is the logic in prioritizing the day of the tournament? Wow, what a loaded question that almost deserves this on live altogether. Okay, this is the adrenaline, this is the dopamine hit of fishing tournaments, what he just said right here. And I guarantee if you got 2 to 3 areas, where 2 to 3 is a lot. And it's even more important. Eric is a kayak angler, so this is even more important question for him. I guarantee you, when you find the 2 to 3 areas, one's going to be on the north end and one's going to be as far as Kusawuchi Creek as you can possibly go. It always works out that way, and you got to split the hairs between which woman you want. It's never within 2 miles of each other. It always works out that way. And so, Eric, to answer your question, I think it just comes out to just pure math. This is where it comes when we're talking about like analyzing your practice. This is where that pays off. So we're going to look at the risk and benefits of both of those areas or all of those areas. So paying attention, number one, how much boat traffic was in each area. If I go to an area and I feel like nobody's probably going to find it, depending on if it's a multi-day tournament or a single-day tournament, I may go to the area that has the most boat traffic first. The reason I'm going to the area that's got the most boat traffic first is because I want to go ahead and catch what I can catch out of there, because by day 2, that's all those fish are going to be caught and it's done. Going in there on day 2, not going to be good. So I'm going to go to that area that's got the most boat traffic first, try to pick off my 1 or 2 while the getting's good before everybody combs over everything. Then I'm going up there to my secret greasy stuff up in the river or in the back of that creek or that little point that nobody else found that I found. Because I got that, I can fish that anytime and go pluck me one off of there. It comes down to analyzing how good in every possible scenario that each area could face. Boat traffic, fishing way up the river, and it's about to rain. Maybe that's not going to be as good as I thought. Found spawners the week before. Well, what if I go back to those spawners and they're not there? So I may go somewhere else first. So it can be that. How easy is it to access with wind or boat or winds or waves? That has a lot to do depending on where you're going to go. Usually in a multi-day tournament, most of all the tournaments I fish are multi-day tournaments. I'd like to try to visit all of my areas on day 1. If possible, I want to get a sampling. I want to go ahead and get me 12 to 14 pounds and then sample everything. And then sometimes I found out an area is better than I perceived it to be, and then I'll cycle through that on day 2. Fish my best stuff. When I make that sample, I can see, well, some of the stuff that was going on in practice is not going on now, so I don't even need to worry about it on day 2. When I make that cycle on day 1, I may find out one of the areas that I found in practice is actually better than I anticipated, so I end up going there on day 2. That's why oftentimes I have better day 2s than I have better day 1s, because maybe I found an area that is better than I perceived it to be. But prioritizing is a $9 million question. A lot of variables play: boat traffic, weather, You know, on some of these lakes, Eric, we don't have to worry about it here in the South. We actually look for wind, but wind can muddy up an area. Paying attention to the wind, so I may not go to that area that I found on the south side if we have a cold front coming. I may only go to my area up on the north end, because I know cold front's coming. It's blowing all that north wind. It's blowing cold water in there. It's muddying up the area.
I think that's all of them.
I think it is, and I'm looking to. Oh, this is a good question, Brian Key. He's asking about a term. He says, do I want to make one post per species or all species under one post?
For the tournament?
Yeah, for the tournament. That's a great question.
Barty answered him.
You need. Okay, good.
Yeah, put all the species under one post.
Okay, great. Thank you, Barty. Thank you for answering that. That's a great question. I hadn't even thought about that. Hey, so y'all just gave it to Eric on the spotted bass last time, and I know there's more people in this app that have access to spotted bass. Only one that submitted any spotted bass, and he won. So y'all give him some competition. Don't just let him run away with it. He's probably fussy. He's probably punching air right now. Shut up, Brian. Hey, so the reason I knew a lot of people, since we have guys that live in different areas of the country, somebody's going to say, well, the guys in Florida, Texas are always going to win. I don't know if we've had anybody from Florida, Texas ever win any of our tournaments. I don't know if we have. So we have species for everything. People in Florida are not going to catch no smallmouth. I don't think you're going to see old Brian Key. He ain't going to be winning the smallmouth, more than likely. Now, he might show up one just because I said that. But we got a smallmouth, a spotted bass, and a largemouth. And never assume that because you catch 2 or 3 pounders that you ain't going to win. Never assume. You don't know. Everybody, and when we say big bass, everybody thinks 7, 8, 9, 10 double-digit fish. Man, sometimes a 2-pounder is a big one. When you're talking about competitive fishing, big ones are always relative to what everybody else is catching. It's not your perception of what's big, okay? Okay. All right. Great live. Great talking to y'all. 6 o'clock, we're going to jump on here again. We'll talk with Bobby Bakewell about fishing glide baits. So look forward to having y'all later on this afternoon, later on this evening. Be a good class.